Tonight, I'm going to be demonstrating how I turn. There are many different ways, but this is how I turn a toothpick dispenser. Basically, it's, let me take this apart. Take the toothpicks out. But basically, it's a lid with a finial, a dowel running the length of it, and a small cup to hold the toothpicks. The cup itself is hollowed out, fits in there, and when you want a toothpick, pull it up. I made these, I made my first one a few years ago. It's sitting in our kitchen right now. I use it every time I have corn on the cob. This is another one that I made using olive wood. Oh, this other one, let me back up. This is cherry, or what I think to be cherry, but out of the same block of wood, it said Mo. So I don't know if it's Mo cherry or cherry Mo or just Mo itself. So this is, it looks cherry to me. This one is olive wood, turned about the same way, a little bit different shape on the outside, and I cut the lid a little bit differently than I did this one, whereas the lid fits on top of the basin here, the lid fits inside the cup on this one. And the top of that, I think, was either ebony or African mahogany. So for tonight's piece, I initially thought about turning it out of what I believe to be buckeye burl, possibly. Not really sure. Again, if it had Mo's name on it, it would be Mo wood. But again, I'm not exactly sure what it was or what it is. The only problem with it is that some parts of it, as you can see here, are very funky. And I was not able to get that properly turned. So what I did instead is I put the piece in the oven for 48 hours, dried it completely out. I didn't use my wife's oven. I have a little oven out here in the garage that I used to dry it completely out. Submersed it in blue stabilizing cactus juice, stabilized it, cooked it up, and I've got it on my lathe now. Joe, if you want to go with the overhead shot. So this is the piece that I have on the lathe. It is the blue stabilized buckeye burl, what I think to be buckeye burl. What I like to do is I typically start with a 2-inch piece of stock. That gets me to the dimensions that I need to get or need to be. Unfortunately, this one is going to be a little bit narrower than what I normally turn, maybe by 1/4 of an inch possibly. So the only modifications that I'm going to have to do to this one is that the cup itself will not be as wide and therefore will not be able to hold as many toothpicks. But that's all. I'll show you that in just a second. So the first thing you do, of course, and I've already done this in advance, you take the chunk of wood, turn it between centers, make it round, turn a tenon on one end, flip it around in the jaws, and you're left with what you have here. So the first thing that we do is we're going to shape the top of the blank, and I'm going to do my best to make it more or less in this shape here. And the joys of having a belt-driven, non-variable speed lathe is fun. And I'm going to have to turn on the dust collector. Can everybody still hear me okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right, thank you, Joe. That's got it. Okay. So now that we've shaped the top of the dispenser, the next thing we need to do is we need to mark a line around that is 1.5 inches. And I wish I'd have done this in advance. I don't need that. I need this. Inch and a half or close enough. Close enough. That is going to be the outside of the lid itself. Now you just need to take it and cut down to that line. And I want to make this about 1/4 inch deep. I really wish you could smell this through the Zoom session, because this cactus juice, it just has an odor all to itself. So the next thing we need to do is I want to just basically just kind of separate, but not completely. I just need to mark the line at the bottom of the lid and the top of the vase itself. I'm beginning to question whether I should have used this cactus juice to stabilize wood. So the next thing I want to do is, on the other 2 pieces that I showed you earlier, I used a combination of Yorkshire grit and Hampshire sheen. John Walsh has recently turned me on to this Doctor's Wood Shops Pens Plus that I've used in several of my pens. They've turned out to look really great. So I'm going to try it tonight on this just to see what it looks like. So you're part of the crowd that's going to witness it firsthand. I need to turn the lathe down just a little bit, because the next thing I need to do is I want to sand the side of the lid itself. This will be the only chance I get to this part. And just a quick sanding. We'll do 180 with Abernet, 240. I'm not going to get too carried away with it. 320. And lastly, 400. And then with a change of the belts again, we'll jump the speed up, grab a small shop towel, or as they say across the pond, kitchen roll. We'll get that on there. And this is basically just a friction polish. It has walnut oil, shellac, and something called Cosmoloid 80H, which I think is synthetic wax. So that does that good enough. Now, I need to get rid of my live center. And I want to go to Jacob's chuck. And I want to drill a 3/8 inch Forstner bit. And I want to take that down just a little bit. This is where the finial is going to be mounted into the lid with a 3/8 inch base. And again, I'm gonna have to, if you come to my place to do a demo, that's fine. I don't mind at all. Just know that you will be changing belt speeds. So I just want to take this Forstner bit down just a bit, just enough to where the finial will have a place to rest. And now that that's done, I need to take, and let me just stop by saying, I use the dowels that you get from Hobby Lobby. They're dirt cheap. This 3/16 inch dowel, 36 inches long, is 39 cents. The problem with a 3/16 inch dowel from Hobby Lobby, it is not 3/16 of an inch. You have to measure and use the drill bit that's appropriate. In this case, I think it was 13/64, a little bit larger. And what I want to do is I want to drill, and I'm probably messing that up because it wasn't quite centered. But that's where glue comes into play. Lots of glue. All right, we'll stop there. I've made my point. Let's see, I need to part the lid. Again, crank up the speed. Put that in there for right now. And just like that, it pops off. Got a 3/4 inch piece of plywood here with some sandpaper on it. We'll just run that across and kind of flatten out the bottom side a little bit. All right. Now I want to take a 1 inch Forstner bit. If anybody has any questions, feel free at any time to interrupt.
John, if you could turn a toothpick, why can't you turn your own dowels?
They're 39 cents at Hobby Lobby.
That's the wrong size, though.
I can adapt. As you know, turning with a Forstner bit, turn the lathe speed as far as it'll go down. In my case, it's 430 RPM. And all we're going to do is we're going to just get that lined up and kind of get in there. Did I tighten that down, didn't I? Nope. Joe interrupted me. Just going to get that down in there. And that's all that really needs to be turned or hollowed out for right now. The next thing we need to do is put the lid. Joe, will you give me the tailstock shot? We want to take the lid and put it down there in the bottom, and I want to mark it. Now this initially was 1.25 inches, right? Is that what I said? Or 1.5 inches, sorry. And it's a little bit over 1.5 inches. So what I want to do is I want to measure the outside dimensions, which at this point is 1.5395. And I want to mark that. Actually, I need to flatten that first.
Take your sanding block.
Good idea. Smart feller. So now we will go back. Let me start this lathe speed a little bit. We'll get the outside, or get the inside dimensions for this lid mark on the lathe. About right there. Let me get this Jacobs chuck out of the way before I impale my elbow with it. And we're going to go in here with a parting tool and just nibble away at it. Another disadvantage of having a mini lathe is that tailstock gets in the way really quick. A little bit more. And that was probably too much. That's too snug. We'll never be able to get the toothpicks out. All right. So we got the lid on there in the hole. We will bring the live center back up, mount that on there. Go and cinch that down. And now we will finish shaping the top of the piece. Now, earlier when I was doing the top of the piece, I wasn't that concerned with finishing it at that point in time because I knew I'd come back and get it again on this side, or once the lid was actually in place. All right, before we go any further, I want to take,
Ready for overhead shot, John?
yeah, let's go with overhead. I want to take and get a measurement 3.5 inches from the top of this lid, or from the lid itself. That is actually going to be the end piece of the toothpick dispenser. Toothpicks are about 2.5 inches long. These things can be as long as you want them, but you're just going to have to be pulling a plunger a long time to get a toothpick out. But they definitely have to be long enough to fit a toothpick. So this is, the top is done except for I need to sand it. The sides can be shaped to any which way you want, whether you want straight design, concave, convex. So I want to take this and I want to bring this in just to the side of that line, and I want to make that 1.25 inches. I want to make this piece 1.25 inches. That's going to be the bottom of it. If you wanted to shape it into a concave pattern, you don't need to go further than that. But you're going to be left, if you left it like this, you're going to be left with probably about 1/4 inch of wood on either side, which is all your personal taste, but it seems like a lot of wood. We're almost there. I think that's got it. I just can't get the calipers in there. Nope, a little bit more. So the reason you're doing this, all right, that's in there. The reason you're doing this in this 1.25 inches here is if you wanted to shape the bottom of this to where it looked like this, you don't want to take this part past the 1.25 inches that you just marked on the end, or you're going to be getting into the middle of it, or you're going to make a funnel out of it when you hollow it out. And just in the interest of time and dust savings, I'm only going to shape the outside of this just a little bit with a skew chisel. Here I go, Joe.
Excuse me, John. What is that tool called?
It's called the Devil's Toothpick. And if you're not careful, he'll get you with it. Well, I'm not very proficient in the skew. I'm more scared of the skew than I am anything else, but
You need a good teacher then.
I've got a good teacher. He's sitting right here beside me. Of course, anything that I could get instructional wise on that skew is good to have.
You're doing a fine job, man.
It's not my favorite tool yet, but I would like it to be. I would like to become proficient in it, but it's just one of those. I've seen the videos that what's his name? Is Alan Batty has done on YouTube. You can do so much with the skew. It's just that you have to know what you're doing to get to that point.
I'm glad to see you using it. Good for you.
Yeah, and I'm on live TV too, so think about that. So like I said, just in the interest of time, and I just don't want to breathe any more of this dust than I have to, I'm going to go ahead and start sanding the outside, and I don't want to turn any more away because this just adds too much. Like the sanding is not going to make enough dust as it is. Let me see if I can bring my dust collector a little bit closer. That's too close. There we go. All right. So again, we're going to be doing the Avernet sanding from 120 to 400. So what I've done is it's sanded to 400. I probably could go a little bit more to go through 800. But what we want to do now is we're going to see how this Pins Plus, Doctor's Wood Shop Pins Plus works on it. The thing about stabilized wood that has kind of bothered me is you can see here, hopefully, that it's a lot bluer than what this turned out to be. All depending on the type of wood, the grain that's in it. Sometimes it doesn't soak in as far as what you would like. It does, the dye doesn't permeate as much. So with anything, you're pretty much left with the forces of nature when you're turning with wood. But maybe this will turn out all right. I let this, like I said, I dried it out in the oven for 48 hours. I kept it under vacuum for, I think it took 10 hours for all the bubbles to get out. And then I let it soak in the cactus juice for 2 days before I put it in the oven and bake the resin hard.
How long did you bake it in the oven, John?
4 hours. The you can bake it for, I would say, at least 2 hours for like a typical pen blank, but the internal temperature needs to reach 200 degrees. So this Pins Plus is a friction polish, so you pretty much just friction it. It gets hot in your hand. Sometimes it gets very hot. How's that showing up? We want to do, I'd like to put at least 3 coats of this Pins Plus on there. Pins Plus is not only good for pens, people use it on pepper mills, anything that's going to be handled on a regular basis. So I figured it would be a good choice for a toothpick dispenser because everybody needs a good toothpick. And everybody's going to be getting a toothpick, especially after they eat corn on the cob and all those other good foods that get stuck between your teeth. Typically, if I was putting this on a pen or anything else, what I would do is I would wait for the Pins Plus to cool down or for the piece to cool down. But I don't feel like doing that tonight. It's supposed to let that layer harden before you add the next coat on top of it. But for a demonstration piece, I think it's good enough. Now, for the last coat, what I do like to do is I like to hold my finger on this paper towel and put pressure on it until I can't take the heat anymore. I really want to bake it in there. And this is spinning at about 2,500 RPM. and it's starting to get very hot. All right, that's enough.
John, they recommend that you allow a few seconds between coats. So certainly you did that. So you should be okay with what you did.
Oh, a few seconds. Yeah, I'm good. I can do a few seconds. Usually I just let it cool down until it's, well, cool to the touch. So that is that. And now we will see if I can get that lid out. I bet I cooked the lid in there. There we go. I'll put the lid to the side where I won't be able to find it next when I need it next. And now we will finish drilling with the Forstner bit or hollowing it out. Again, I'll need the dust collector on for this. And I need to mark or find somewhere to tell me the top, from top to bottom is 3.5. And I want to have at least 3/16 of an inch bottom. So I'm gonna mark it 3.25 on here, which is, if you can see that right there where the teeth of the Jacobs chuck start.
John, how long is the toothpick?
Toothpicks are about 2.5 inches. Okay. So here we have a dilemma. The hole is only 1 inch in diameter. This is larger than 1 inch, and I need to get that deep. So I think I've got an extension somewhere.
That's what a gouge is for, John.
You know where I live, come on over.
By the way, I just have to tell you, you know, while you're at Ollie's, you could just get one of these.
You want what?
Can you see that?
I can't see anything.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll have to send you a picture.
Show us after the demo.
I'll have to show you a picture.
So he turned that out of a piece of plastic. Is that right, Gary?
Absolutely. But you know, they were all, once you turn it, those things are already in there.
Are you talking about? Are you talking about one of these?
No. Well, that's okay too. That's okay too, John.
Because
Yeah.
Joe brought
Save
these
you a lot
over.
of time.
Yeah, just basically just hollow it out with a gouge and drop that in there and epoxy it in there and put a wooden top on it.
I like yours better. This is a beautiful piece.
We'd have to change the name of our club to the Waxhaw Plastic Turners.
That's it. Talk about green wood.
Yeah. All right. I didn't anticipate this, or I would have had it done in advance. Well, that grub screw stripped. All right, we'll see how that goes. Maybe it'll break off in there.
It's going to change the dimensions.
I guess I should measure again. 3 1/4 is now right here. If I drilled down to the teeth like I was going to in the first place, we'd have a real big problem. All right, I got a problem with that grove screw. It's not getting in there tight. The problem with these grub screws is they all take different size Allen wrench, and nobody is standard with these things. It's always the one you don't have, exactly right. So for the inside of this, a little trick that I like to use is a larger dowel rod split in the middle with a piece of sandpaper tucked in there. It's easier and a lot less painful than trying to put your sandpaper in there with your finger. And all I want to do is just kind of even that out a little bit, because we want that to be as smooth as possible, so the inside cup will have a good surface to slide on. All right. Now we want to part this off. So initially I want to bring the live center back into play. Yeah, I guess a tool wrist would help. And as always, you want to do a concave bottom on the piece so it'll sit flat on the kitchen counter. And now what you could do is either mount this on some pin jaws, reverse mount it on some pin jaws, or make a jam chuck to clean up the bottom a little bit. But we're just going to clean up the bottom with a little chisel.
Also put a sanding pad in your
Jacob's chuck. And
Jacob's chuck.
yeah, sanding pad. So let's see if I can. All right. Now we'll move on to the finial. And sometimes you may have enough wood left here at your headstock on the chuck that you can turn the cup out of. Unfortunately, I only got about a half an inch there, which is not going to be enough. So I will turn the cup later out of a piece of something. I think I got a piece of maple here. But for now, we'll use we'll switch to the finial. And what I've chosen for this demonstration is a piece of ebony, African blackwood. Not really sure exactly what it is, if they're both the same thing or not. The finials, I wanted to make a point that they can be pretty much made out of any little scrap wood that you may have laying around. If you're a pin turner, you may have a box like this with all different kinds of scrap wood. I actually thought about making one out of a finial out of a diamond cast, Alumilite, but yeah, you're left with all kinds of different scrap wood that for some reason you never really want to throw away. This particular piece is I think was initially purchased as a pin blank. And again, finials can be made out of anything. Here's a piece of bloodwood, catalox, Paduke, purple heart, and red heart. Any contrasting piece to the piece of wood that you're working with. Oh, let's see. So the finial in a piece like this doesn't really need to be that fancy. It needs to be more practical than anything else. Something that is easy to grab on with some greasy fingers and pull it up. If you do something with something like a Cindy Drozda finial, you'll have the people picking their teeth with the finial and not with the toothpicks inside. No, not that brave. All right. Now where's my lid at? Oh, okay. Well, here, I got this right here.
There you go.
Is that better? Oh yeah, that's a lot better. Okay. But anyway, we want to make this finial fit in the lid. And what I like to do is kind of use the rule of thirds. So if the lid is 1.5 inches wide, I want to make my finial 1/2 inch. So yeah, the lid's 1.5 inches wide, and I want to make my lid or my finial approximately 1/2 inch. So I just need to take a little bit more off of that. That'll be good enough right there. Now, I need to kind of shape it to where I can have a base. And I'll probably turn that part down just a little bit too far. All right, we'll hit that with just a little bit of sandpaper. Doesn't need a whole lot. But before I hit before I give it the last grit, I'm gonna go ahead and start the place where I want to part it. Now we'll give it 400 grit. And I need to make this base 3/8 of an inch. There we go, 3/8. We got a little bit ways to go. A little bit more. All right. Before I part it off, I want to kind of undercut that just a little bit so it will fit over the lid and you won't be able to tell very much, hopefully. All right. Now the depth of my lid, it's not as much as what I would want it to be. Maybe that might be a 16th. I'd like to have an 1/8. I've got an idea. Don't try this at home. That gave me a little bit more. I didn't want to get too brave with it. Oh, I almost forgot to polish that. I came real close to parting that off. Yeah, I may part it off just with my paper towel right now. All right. Now we'll part it off. And if I could find my sanding board, there's kind of like a little nubbin on the end of that. We'll kind of knock it off.
Left side of it.
Left side of the,
You put it on the towel, over by the towel.
here we go. And it will fit just like that. And now we're left with that hole for the dowel. So again, I'll put that lid to the side where I'll never be able to find it again. And we want to get this chuck out of the way. Use a piece of scrap maple for the cup. I had this sitting in a milk crate with a bunch of other scrap wood that I've previously used. And when I was selecting it before the demonstration, I got thinking, what did I use this for? I can't really remember. It might have been a birdhouse at one point in time, but I had some masking tape around the end of it that I must have used as a jam chuck. So what I want to do first is I want to kind of find the middle of that. Just like that. And I want to take this down to 1 inch in diameter, about 3/4 of an inch long. This is going to be the cup. But before I get carried away with that, let's measure. Actually, let's do the smart thing and measure the actual inside diameter of the cup, which, lo and behold, look there, 1 inch, exactly. All right. Let's see here. Stop there and measure. Not quite. Yeah, once I turn this to 1 inch and then sand it a little bit, it'll be to the point where it'll slide in and out. Wow, 30 seconds. All the cup really needs to be is just deep enough to support the bottom part of the toothpick itself, which is about that deep. All right. Let's put the Jacobs chuck back on, or in my case, a Forstner gouge. And we will make the cup 3/4 of an inch inner diameter, which will give the cup a 1/8 inch wall around all sides. Now I'm just going by eyesight here. Trying not to drill through the bottom of it, which that's good enough, as they say. And now we'll take that other drill bit that I have misplaced. There it is. This is for the dowel, and we will run this all the way through the bottom of the cup. Should be plenty deep enough. And now I'm going to get this impaler out of my way. And we'll give this a quick sanding. All right, that's all sanded. Am I making you tired by changing these belts? All right,
John, you don't put any finish on the cup.
You can if you want to. It's going to be down inside. Nobody's ever going to see it unless they pull it out enough to spill the toothpicks everywhere. Oh, there's. And there's a little nubbin at the bottom of that cup. Just knock it off with a little bit of sandpaper. All right. So now we got all the parts done. Let me get this chuck out of the way. Let's see, let me find my pieces again. All right. So we've got the lid, the finial, and the cup. And as you can see, there's a good 1/4 inch of material on either side of that cup, which could have been turned away and shaped a little bit. Take a dowel rod. There's the cup. And what I'm doing is putting a little bit of CA glue around the end of that dowel. You could use wood glue or whatever. CA is just a little bit faster. And to make it even faster, accelerant. Now I've got the dowel running through the cup. I need to trim it off And a pair of wire cutters is good for that. Watch your eyes. But I'm still left with a little bit on the end of it that a belt sander will take off really quick. Now you're left with that. Put that in there. Put the lid on top. Actually, where's my wire cutters? I'll cut that a little bit proud. Put the lid in the hole. Stick that in there. Push it down as far as it'll go, and then pick it up just a little bit where the lid or where the cup is not actually sitting on the inside of the dispenser. And I want to add just a little bit here. Pick that up. Hit it with the accelerator. And now your cup goes all the way down, but doesn't necessarily hit the bottom. And now, I shouldn't have done it this way, but I will anyway. Now I got to trim. I should have done this in reverse. I should have put the finial on first, because now I can't get to that to get it out. So I'm just taking a little bit of more CA glue, putting around the bottom of the lid, just to hold in place. All right. All right, so what I'm going to need to do is I need to trim out this dowel. Like I said, I've done this in reverse. I should have done it this way. But I need to make that flat, or as flat as can be, in that little hole there. Hopefully you can see what's going on. Or that will rest in there, and I'm almost there. If I'd had the right bit in my Dremel, I'd go ahead and knock it out with that. But I'm getting somewhere with this. Yeah. All right, I can push that on that. So let me add a little bit more CA on there to the top. Push that finial in. And I can't hit it with the accelerator because it's in there, but it won't take just a minute to harden. There we go. So there's the cup, the dowel, the lid, the finial. Goes into the base just like that. And if you want to add toothpicks, just pick it up, drop your toothpicks in, they'll fit, and drop it down. And then you're left with a toothpick dispenser.